Okay, welcome back, everyone. You can see we've been moving up and down the value chain, up and down the hierarchy, right? And now we're going to move back to think of ourselves as workers, of course. How will AI shape the future of work? So with us today to shed light on this interesting and sometimes controversial topic is Alison Kennedy. She's the Managing Director of Accenture Strategy and has a lot of experience working with business leaders and governments in Europe and Japan, China, ASEAN region, really helping to leverage some of the thinking around AI and how it can actually be used for good. She has degrees from economics, economic history, and finance from LSE. So Alison, the stage is yours. Thank you very much. Let's welcome her up. Hello. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm on. Very good. Well, first of all, thank you all for coming back. This is an amazing turnout, kind of almost 5:20 on a Saturday. So thank you. This is an absolutely fascinating topic, and I hope that in the course of today you've had the chance to think about AI, dispel some myths, learn some things, and meet some new people. What I'm here today to do is to really look at the future of work, and in particular leadership in the context of AI. And in the course of the next 20 minutes, the time that we have together, I want to really kind of anchor the thinking and my kind of points in you and your leadership journey over the next few years. Work is incredibly important. I mean, most of us spend most of our lives at work. And so how work is going to evolve and how leadership is going to evolve is really personal. And AI is going to have a dramatic impact on how it is we do work, where we do work, and how we think of leadership in the context of this new world. Specifically, what I'm going to cover is I'm going to cover some of the biggest impacts in the short and medium term, where we're going to see those impacts. I'm also going to cover where AI is going to fit in the workforce. And as I said, last but not least, perhaps the most important thing, I'm going to think about leadership changes that need to happen. And one of my other jobs, so I have a day job, but I also have a side job in Accenture. And that job is I'm the sponsor for leadership development across the globe. And one thing that we've been doing a lot is thinking about what needs to happen and what needs to change, particularly in mindsets, but also in education of leaders. And I'm going to share a little bit of what we are doing as an organization. My discussion is going to be based on lots of research, lots of books, we've all read them, lots of papers from Accenture and from other places, but also on some real examples of what we're seeing kind of going on in the world today. So let me start by saying, of all the topics that people think about when they talk about AI, the most contentious, and we've heard it already today, is about jobs and roles. And you see it in every country, you see it in the press, this dystopian world where the machines take over. I think we saw earlier Pierre with a picture of the Terminator taking over the world, where the humans lose control and machines leveraging intelligence are making all of the decisions. And frankly, that is pretty scary. But if I look at myself and I look at what I think, I really believe that the future with AI is a really positive one. I'm an optimist on many fronts. And just a very kind of simple example, my own personal work life has been transformed in the past 3 years through the application of technology, simple technologies, and kind of some elements of AI. And let me explain. I spend a lot of my work life traveling around the world. And I spend time traveling to, unknown places that I'm not familiar with. And as a woman on my own, sometimes that in the past has been a bit scary. But having the travel apps that we all now take for granted has completely transformed my sense of control, my sense of security, and also my ability to engage with populations in other places. And take specifically, I travel a lot to Bangkok. And over the past 10 or 11 months, on the app that I have in the back of my taxi, I'm able to communicate with my taxi driver. I don't speak Thai, he doesn't speak English, but we can communicate. And of course, as anyone will tell you, taxi drivers can solve all of the world's problems. So being able to actually communicate with these taxi drivers is actually a revelation for me and allows me not only to feel more secure, but actually to be able to be better at my job because I understand what real people are thinking in the markets that I go to live and work in. And that's just a tiny example of how, for me, technology is really changing the way I think about and do my work. Now, the potential that we have in the future is really to take AI to the next level. Frankly, we are at the brink of a brave new world. And this combination of intelligent technology, human ingenuity, is going to create a workforce, a combined workforce, that is something we've never seen before. And frankly, we're just at the very beginnings of trying to figure out how different it's actually going to be. Many businesses talk about AI. The reality is very, very few have actually applied real AI, almost none. Most organizations have applied advanced automation, but technology that can truly extend human capabilities through sensing, comprehending, acting, and learning with humans is very, very new. And everyone here is in a fantastic position because you are at the beginning, or we are at the beginning, and we're still working of this revolution. The collaboration is the key point, and you've probably heard that in discussions as people have gone through today. But let me just kind of bring that to life with a very simple example. So, I mean, there's been some work done by a Harvard-based pathology team where they've looked at AI-based techniques for kind of the diagnosis of breast cancer. The pathologists alone had a 96% accuracy. The machines alone had a 92% accuracy. When they combined the machines and the humans, it was a 99.5% accuracy. So the real game here, and there are many examples like this, the real game is the combination of the humans and the machines working together in symbiosis. And it's really important as leaders that we understand that. One of the roles of a successful business leader in any age is to take the assets and capabilities, the human assets, the technology, the financial assets, and bring them together to make more than the sum of the parts. And frankly, with AI, we have the ability to actually maximize that. It's really kind of profound. We have the ability to maximize human potential. We have the ability to maximize the technology potential. And then we have this combination effect, which is really going to take us to places that we can't even imagine. So we're at a brilliant time. And I would say also, sitting in Singapore, we're in a brilliant place. We're really in a brilliant place because there is a lot that needs to be figured out to bring things to reality. There's a lot of discussion that needs to happen, particularly about the threats. We've heard a lot about ethics and responsible AI. In Singapore, that debate is already happening. It's happening in government, it's happening in civil society, it's happening in business. And so I think that in Singapore, it's a great place to be. We also know that Singapore is one of the markets that is most likely to benefit from AI, the application of AI in terms of GDP. And so I think that we're in the right time and the right place to really take advantage of what's going to happen. And so then let me say, well, so what? What does that mean in terms of leadership and in terms of what we all need to do? And I'm going to kind of give us 3 imperatives and 3 challenges that we really need to get our heads around if AI is really to deliver on the promise. So let me start with the 3 imperatives. So the first thing that we need to do is fundamentally reimagine the business, top to bottom, left to right. And when Pierre spoke earlier, he spoke about a reimagination of the business model, and that is absolutely correct. We need to move from linear processes and parallel ways of working to adaptive processes fueled by vast amounts of data, designing things that create a better future, not only for consumers and stakeholders, but critically important for employees and for partners. We need to think of self-directed teams. I know many of you are probably already working in more agile environments. That is going to expand. And we need people to be working on their terms where they want to and how they want to. And this is a very different world to the world that we've come from. Accenture is an organization with 450,000 people worldwide. It's a big number. And so we also manage lots of data, and that gives us an advantage in that we're able to do lots of experiments. And we do kind of big experiments and small experiments. And kind of one of the big experiments we've been doing is with our operations teams, actually in Asia. And in 2017, we actually educated a lot of our team on actually advanced automation and a little bit of AI, and asked them to figure out, in the roles that they do, the tasks that actually they don't want to do, the tasks that are not value added. And as a result of that, we set off a transformation program. That transformation program, after 18 months, had taken out 16,000 FTE worth of tasks. 16,000 FTE worth of tasks, but had added 2,000 jobs to that workforce. Not only that, it had actually increased the satisfaction of the employees by 8%. So, I mean, this is like a big experiment. Closer to home, small experiment is, I have a team member, been a team member for a couple of years, and we recently took this team member to meet a client for the first time. The team member is called Sheldon. Sheldon is our AI analyst. And so Sheldon was actually dreamed up in Paris and in Singapore by the teams working in Paris and Singapore. Our young people who didn't want to do some of the things that we just took for granted that we did in my day. And they've come up with, and we've been feeding and training and developing this AI. And it's very interesting, because what you realize when you start to think about the AI is the AI is just another team member. It can be developed, it can be trained, it can be controlled, just like another team member. And we really think of Sheldon. Actually, even in proposals now, we have a picture of Sheldon, and we take Sheldon. We take Sheldon to client meetings. The next thing I want to talk about is really the need to create new approaches to work. And actually what that really is focused on is thinking again about the job content, not the actual job itself. And again, there's so much concern about the loss of job. And in some markets, that really is a concern. So particularly in the markets that are surrounding Singapore, markets that are at different stages of development, there's a lot that needs to be figured out. Policymakers are spending a lot of time thinking about this. In more kind of advanced economies, there is the notion that actually AI will only take out about 16% of jobs, and in many cases there's going to be a net benefit for many sectors. The job content of all roles, however, is going to really change. So that's the thing. The job content is going to change. How we do work is going to change. And what I want to kind of draw attention to in the time we've got are some new types of roles that actually really are going to matter to you as leaders and to us as leaders. So the first thing is about being a trainer. We need trainers. And what trainers are is trainers are people who are able to develop and take the AI to somewhere new. And there's a lot of work being done on this, particularly with thinking about how you make AI more empathetic. It's a very kind of, usually kind of very kind of human characteristic, but how you make the AI more empathetic, how you give it humor. And actually, particularly coming out of MIT, there's a lot of work being done in this space. The next area and new roles that are going to be created are what we call explainers. Now, explainers are critical at all levels, and frankly, I think that all leaders need to be explainers actually now, and that's about being able to understand the business context as well as being able to understand the AI in quite a deep way. Doesn't mean that you need to be a data scientist, doesn't mean that you need to know everything, but you do need to be able to translate from the top to the bottom of the organization, and you need that at all levels. Ultimately, leadership is going to move from being translators to what I'm calling seekers, so people who can seek value and understand where the value, but also the risks are in the system. So that's another new role that we need to be creating now. I mean, frankly, we all need to be able to start translating the top, the ambition with kind of what the AI can do. And finally, there's what we call the sustainers, and the sustainers are actually the buddies. You know, the people who make sure that the AI doesn't go off the rails, make sure that in the team kind of context, you're looking after the AI. They're not going out late at night having too many drinks, but actually they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So those are the sustainers. And those are very new roles that we expect to see and we really should be kind of thinking about now. Of course, there's been huge debate here, and I know that Sunita from kind of my team kind of spoke earlier about responsible AI. Huge, enormous topic, a particularly huge topic for leaders. All business needs to be responsible. As leaders, we need to be even more responsible. And at the heart of responsible AI is really the concept that artificial intelligence should be human-centric. And I think kind of in that context, frankly, having Sheldon on our team has actually helped us a little bit in thinking that through and, you know, really kind of reframing how it is we think about the AI. If we get all of this right, the notion and the way of leadership is very different, and it's kind of what I'm calling kind of contemporary leadership. It's a very different style and approach to leadership, and it's exciting, but it's also kind of frankly pretty scary, and it means that we all need to learn some new things. And so there are some kind of challenges. The first is skills and learning. I mean, frankly, the jobs are changing. We're having to rethink the training. We're having to get new curriculums. We're having to change our mindsets. And that's kind of a pretty scary thing. And I can tell you that in my organization, we've completely transformed how we think of the characteristics of leadership. We have a new leadership DNA, a new way of thinking about being leaders. And it's very different to what we've had in the past. And it means that all of us need to completely reset and think, actually, I'm going to have to really change my game and up my game. We've taken our 1,000 senior leaders through data science, data analysis, statistics. So kind of last year, I spent kind of a week in, unfortunately, it wasn't INSEAD, it was Kellogg, but I kind of spent kind of a week there doing kind of random forests and multivariate regressions. And I mean, and all of us are having to go back to school and learn this stuff bottom up. Most business leaders agree that there's a huge need for things to change. Frankly, the investments are not going in where they need to be at the pace they need to be. And it needs to be happening now because the pace of change is very, very, very fast. Data veracity, that's the next thing. I mean, how many times have any of us gone into meetings and been told, I don't trust what my data tells me, finance don't give me the right information, HR don't give me the right information. Frankly, we're moving into a world where that information, if we don't trust the information inside the walls of our organizations, how are we ever going to trust the vast amounts of data outside that it takes to run kind of the AI? And I think that we all just need to make sure that we kind of check, we're kind of up to speed with the data and we start to trust the data. I am over, and I'm sorry because I didn't say that, but I do just want to say the final thing is, there is no finish line. No one really knows where this is going. We're constantly having to learn. We're constantly having to kind of up our game. There is no leadership playbook. Things are going to evolve really rapidly. It's going to be more complex, not less complex. And, I just think that by virtue of the fact that you guys are all here today, it means you've all taken the first step on the path to actually really thinking about kind of leadership in your journey. So I wish you all well, and thank you very much. And if you do want anything to read, there's a great book by one of my colleagues called Human and Machine, and you may want to look it up. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Alison. Let's make sure we take one or two questions or comments for Alison. Any comments about future of work and AI?
Hi, Alison. Thank you so much for such an entertaining session and information. My question to you is, as a global sponsor of leadership within Accenture, what is that one biggest challenge that you face today, as a sponsor of the team, in order to bring your leaders up to speed in this age of AI at Accenture?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the biggest challenge is getting leaders who've been leaders for a long time to understand that they really need to change. So people at the start of their career, people in the middle of their career, people towards the end of their career all need to kind of go back and learn. And what we need are very, very different mindsets, behaviors, much more collaboration, much more willingness to kind of innovate and kind of fail, much more willingness to go really outside your comfort zone and really getting and that's why we started with the senior leaders, to be honest. Getting the senior leaders to understand that they need to go through this as well was actually one of the biggest challenges.
Thank you.
Other question or comment? Okay, well, that was terrific. Thank you so much, Alison. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.